So, Hare Krishna, welcome all the devotees to our program on Srimad Bhagavatam study. Today we are going to discuss the 7th chapter of Srimad Bhagavatam's first canto, and we will try our best to cover the 34th verses of this particular chapter. The title of this chapter is The Son of Drona Punished. The son of Drona here means to Ashwathama, and this is our 19th class in total. So I will request Vidya Mataji to recite the prayers for today's class. Vidya Mataji, Mangalacharan prayers.
Yes, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Om Agyan Timrandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Anmilitam Yena Tasme Shri Guruve Namah Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yut Padkamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagan Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvitam Savadhutam Parijan Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitam Cha हे कृष्ण करुणा सिंधु दीन बंधो जगतपते गोपेशा गोपिका कांता राधा कांता नमोस्तुते तप्त कांचन गौरंगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी विश्भानुसुते देवै प्रणमामि हरि प्रिये वांछा कल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिंधुभ्य एव च प्रतिनामं पवनभ्येभ्य वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंदा। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे.
Okay, Mataji, very nice. And now we go for the Bhagavatam prayers. Yes.
ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय. ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय. ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय. नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयम् उदीरये. नष्टा प्रवेश्य भद्रेषु नित्यं भगवती सेव्या भगवती उत्तमा श्लोके भक्तिर्भावती नष्टिकी. कृष्णाय वासुदेवाय देवकी नंदनाय च नंद गोपा कुमाराय गोविंदनादाय नमो नमः. Hare
Yes, Mataji. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much. Very nicely recited. Yes. Now we go to the next section of our program, which is the recap of the previous class. And I would like to invite Dr. Ishwar Chaudhary from Rohtak to kindly lead us to the recap of the previous class. Prabhuji?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Am I
Hare
audible?
Yes, you are audible. Yes.
Hare Krishna, Anurag Prabhuji. Hare Krishna, dear devotees. I am glad and grateful to Prabhuji for allotting me the recap of class 17, which is Bhagavatam study from Canto 1, Chapter 6. Wherein the two exalted sages, Srila Narada and Vyasadeva, converse as to how to formulate a formidable, a fail-safe and authentic roadmap to reach up to Lord Sri Hari and thereby help the fallen souls in Kali Yuga. Another highlight of this dialogue was how sage Narada was able to have a brief darshan and audience with the Lord, and the pain that followed after that brief darshan and darshan of the Lord, and the wisdom that emerged from this meeting. Now we move on to the verse by verse recap. And in the first section, that is verse 1 to verse 4, is all inquiries by Vyasadeva from Narada about his life, more and more details of his life. Particularly, he wanted to know as to what he did after the departure of Bhakti Vedantas, who instructed him, and how did he feel after being initiated and passed his time after that? How did he attain this body, and how on earth did he remember things that happened prior to this day of Brahma? Because a lot of time had passed, and invariably the time destroys everything. Now, as this discussion was going on, there are some important points which we can understand. Number one is, why was Vyasa so curious about knowing the details about Narada's life? And the important thing was he knew very well that Narada had a very high stature as far as transcendental is concerned. He was a perfect transcendentalist, and also he was his guru, and it was the duty of a disciple to inquire and follow in the footsteps of his exalted guru. So these were the two things that perhaps prompted Vyasa to know more and more about his guru. Now, regarding the forgetfulness part, Narada asserted that unlike material body, spiritual consciousness is never annihilated. The superconscious in the spiritual plane is as good as spiritual soul, and it never goes away. Now, moving on to the next part, the verse 5 to 10, where Narada replies to the queries of Vyasadeva. He speaks about his mother's departure and its aftermath. I'm quoting Narada verbatim, and it goes like this. The great sages, after imparting transcendental knowledge, departed, leaving me to pass my life as such. My dear mother, who had her only shelter in me, passed away after a snake bite, leaving me alone in the hands of destiny. This was a very serious blow to a child who was just 5 years old, but look at the stuff Narada was made of. He was an initiated soul, and now living in the hands of destiny means that to his initiated mind it appeared to strengthen his resolve rather than being depressed and felt out of sorts. So he resolved to move up the spiritual ladder, and though only 5 years old, he was quite inexperienced and ignorant about different lands, yet he felt a very tangible change in his life, as if it was a godly way to put his life completely at the mercy of the Lord. And so thinking, he started for the north. In the next verses 11 to 19, Narada gives details about his travels, his difficulties, the meditation and vision of the Lord. He passed through varieties of Lord's creations as towns, villages, animal farms, agricultural lands, mines, hills, valleys, gardens, and so on, about which it would be pertinent to say that these were nothing else but the replicas of activities of the universal history that repeats itself with every creation. So nothing really different from what we are seeing. Also at this point, it would be pertinent to note that there is really no need these days in the present era to wander like Narada and teach in his way. It is simply enough if we sit in a holy place and do Shravana and Kirtana, and I think that is good enough for the present age. Continuing further with the Narada's story, he says that after long haul travel, he felt physically and mentally tired. And on spotting a river nearby, he drank water from the river and took bath, and he felt very fresh after that. And then he sat under the shadow of a banyan tree and meditated as advised by the sages. And as he was meditating on Lord's lotus feet with bhav and with tears rolling down from his eyes due to longing, the Lord gradually appeared on the lotus of his heart. He was overjoyed and absorbed in an ocean of ecstasy, throwing every part of his body separately enlivened, like Dhruv Maharaj, who got his speech enlivened after meeting the Lord. Now, but soon the boy Narada lost the Lord's form, and he got deeply perturbed as he would wanted to see more and more of the Lord, but it was not to be. Lord darshan is due to his causeless mercy, and we can't have it as and when we want. We only need to wait patiently for such a mercy by doing our best in our devotional service to the Lord. Moving further to verse 20 to 25, where the Lord instructs and consoles Narada. Upon seeing me trying hard to, I again quote Narada verbatim, upon seeing me trying hard to get a view of the Lord again, the Lord spoke to Narada with gravity and pleasing words to mitigate his grief. Lord told Narada that whoever is incomplete in devotional service is immature and not free from material traits, and as such cannot see me. The fact that I showed you once was to increase your curiosity, your desire for me. The more one hankers, the more one gathers away from material desires, which is a need in transcendence. The important point here is that the key for realizing the Lord is intense service of the Lord, which is considered almost equal to seeing him in person. The Lord further glorified bhakti, saying that serving the Lord and the devotees even for a short time is beneficial and long lasting in terms of being fixed in the Lord. The elapsing time factor definitely notwithstanding, whatever may be the length of our break in remembering the Lord, the old things stay fresh. The memory of a devotee will continue even in the next creation afforded. Hearing this, child Narada bowed his head in gratitude. He understood well that there is no difference between speech and darshan of the Lord, as the Lord could be felt and realized through the transcendental sounds of the Vedas also. Now, moving to verse 26 up to 23, Narada gives details about how he could get full perfection. This was achievable by following Lord's instruction until death. He repeatedly chanted Lord's holy name and fame, ignored all formalities of material world, remained satisfied, detached, patiently humble, and non-envious. The only business of a pure devotee, besides spreading message of bhakti far and wide, is to help the fallen souls. He kept this schedule till he met with death, whereupon he received the spiritual body and became an associate of the Lord. At the time of universal devastation, he entered Lord's body along with Brahmaji, and when Brahmaji woke up in the next Yuga cycle, he also appeared along with 10 other rishis. Since then, by Lord Vishnu's grace, he travels all over the universe unrestrictedly, both in spiritual and material worlds, like a liberated spaceman being fixed in unbroken devotional service. He keeps chanting, singing Harikatha, and playing the veena gifted by the Lord. He also emphatically says that the Lord responds to my remembrances fast and full. Now, coming to the last few verses, 34 to 38, where Narada concludes his instructions and departs, saying to Vyasa that Harikatha is the most suitable boat to cross the material ocean. And as is well known, that no one can check the thinking activity of a living being, nor the feeling, willing, or the working processes. One must invest in redirecting this propensity to act according to Vedic instructions to achieve the desired goal. It is understandable that our senses can be restrained to some extent by yoga system, but the same is not sufficient to satisfy the soul. The soul is ever hankering for the Lord, and it gets satisfied only from seva to Lord Mukunda. Narada Muni thus emphasizes controlling the senses through transcendental loving service of Mukunda. And finally, having answered all queries of Vyasa to his entire satisfaction, Narad Muni takes his leave, vibrating his veena and wandering at his free will. All glories to Narada Muni, who glorifies the Lord while taking pleasure in himself and also enlivening all the distressed souls of the universe. Hare Krishna, thank you very much for giving me patient hearing. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Prabhuji. Very nicely covered all the points, and I could see the enthusiasm. You read the chapter and actually explained it to the whole class. So thanks a lot. Thank you very much.
Prabhuji, one small thing. I think this is 1.6 chapters, 1.7.
Oh, yeah.
Yes,
you are.
minor
You are,
correction.
you are right. I will do the correction later on. Yes, you are right.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Prabhuji. Yeah. There are few other editorial mistakes. Please kindly forgive me. Yeah. Thank you very much. Okay. Now we move to the 7th chapter today. The title of this chapter is The Son of Drona Punished. And this is what you are seeing in the slide in front of you is the different sections in this chapter classified according to the different subject matter, the theme of those various sections. So there are in overall 5 themes in this chapter. Today we will try our best to cover the first 4 themes till 34th verse. It's a very important chapter in one sense that specifically the very first theme where Vyasdev's vision and glories of Bhagavatam have been described. So just before he was about to commence to write Srimad Bhagavatam, now Narad Muni has departed and Vyasdev is alone, and he goes into some meditation and he observes few things while he's in meditation. So those 4 or 5 verses are really very important, and we will speak a little elaborately in detail from those verses. And later on when the storyline starts, we will move a little fast. So we will spend some time on these verses in this section, specifically 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th verse. Then there is a mention about that Vyasdev teaches Srimad Bhagavatam to his son Shukdev Goswami, and this particular section 11th at 11th verse, the answer to the question number 1 which the sages in Naimisharanya had asked to Sud Goswami, history of Bhagavatam. So that answer is completed here at the 11th verse here. And then the answer to the second question, and that was about please tell us something about the birth, activities, etc., about of Parikshit Maharaj, who is the hearer of Srimad Bhagavatam. So then the storyline starts from 12th verse onwards till 34th verse, and it all starts after the end of Mahabharat war, what happened, how things unfolded, how the story unfolded. So we will cover that in verses 12 to 16, where lamentation of Pandava's dead sons, and 17 to 34, where Arjun captures Ashwathama. So not to uh, reveal the secret of these stories, we will actually make it a little more interesting when we go into the class and listen to the story. So let us start from the very first verse. But before we start, let me identify the uh, identify devotees who would like to read the slides. So I would say, who would like to read the slide? Can devotees volunteer for it? Manish Prabhu want to read it, and then others.
I can do it, Prabhuji.
I can
Okay.
also do it.
So Manish ji, Vidya ji, and Rakesh ji. Okay. So three devotees.
Even I, Prabhuji, if you allow.
Okay, Vrindavaneshwari Mataji. Okay. Okay. Fine. Thank you. So I have four names. So we will go in that order. So first of all, we'll ask Manish ji to kindly read the slide. Read first verse first, and then the second and third verse later. Yeah. Please go
Yeah,
ahead.
Prabhu. Through Srila Vyasadeva's vision and glories of Bhagavatam.
Hmm.
Item 1. Rishi Saunaka asked, O Suta, the great and transcendently powerful Vyasadeva heard everything from Sri Narada Muni. So after Narada's departure, what did Vyasadeva do?
Okay. Now the chapter starts. The story now moves forward. Narad Muni has left the ashram, and the sages are discussing among each other, where Shaunak Rishi, who is the head of the assembly of the sages gathered at Naimisharanya. So Shaunak Rishi rises up and asks Sud Goswami that after Narad Muni left, then what did Vyasdev do? He was quite curious to know what exactly Vyasdev did. Okay, next Prabhuji.
Yeah. Section 2 and 3. Sri Suta said, on the western bank of the river Saraswati, there is an ashrama at Samyaprasha. Srila Vyasadeva touched water for purification and sat down to meditate.
Yeah. So it is talking about that Vyasdev was in his ashram, and which was based along the banks of the river Saraswati, and the name of the place is Shamya Prash. And in that ashram, Srila Vyasdev took some water from Saraswati river and did some achman. Achman means internal cleansing, internal purification. So many times you will see in Vedic tradition, when we are about to begin something holy, something transcendental, something divine, something spiritual, then we do it first of all by cleansing ourselves internally. So how do we do it? We take some water in our palm, and then we sip it and chant some name of the Lord. Like in our Vaishnava Sampradaya, what do we do is we take some water and we do Om Keshavaya Namaha, Om Narayanaya Namaha, Om Madhavaya Namaha, like we do the Achman. So Vyasdev did something similar. He touched the water for purification and sat down to meditate. So here in the verse, the word ashram comes, and Srila Prabhupada makes a very nice point in his purport. What exactly is ashram? So Manish ji, yeah.
Yeah. What is an ashrama? An ashram is a place where spiritual culture is always foremost. It does not matter whether the place belongs to a householder or a mendicant. The whole Varnashrama system is so designed that each and every status of life is called ashram.
Yeah,
Ashrama.
now it's a very nice point, very profound point. Like we see the Varn ashram system. So ashram, there are four ashrams: Brahmacharya ashram, then we have Grahastha ashram, then we have Vanaprastha ashram, and then we have Sannyas ashram. So every stage of life has been mentioned as an ashram. And why it is mentioned as ashram? This is mainly to underscore this point that in whatever stage of life we may be, but our ultimate purpose is to remember the Lord, to keep the Lord in our center. And that is why Srila Prabhupada is mentioning here an ashram is a place where spiritual culture is always foremost. Always foremost. Be you are in a brahmacharya ashram, you are in a grahastha ashram, you are in a vanprastha, or you are in a sannyas. The ultimate center of our life is always the Supreme Lord. And if we are able to maintain that kind of a mentality, that kind of a life, that kind of a vision when we are living, it does not matter we are living in a school, or we are studying in a school, we are living in a house, or we are living in a forest as vanprasthi, or we have renounced the life. Because if the Lord is always in the center, the place where we are living will be known as an ashram. So how can we make our house as an ashram? If we start to if we start to do spiritual activities in our house, if we start to behave in our house with our other family members, with the people who come to meet our house from outside, etc., etc., in a way which is spiritually enlivening, which is spiritually powerful, or where the culture is actually based on spirituality, based on uh, the fact that Lord is in our center of our house, then our house will become an ashram. So like how to make our house an ashram? We install the deities, we do the aarti in the morning, we do the aarti in the evening. Whatever we cook in our kitchen, we offer the food to the Lord. Now we treat each other with respect. We maintain a certain decorum when we are living in the house. We don't speak loud in front of the deities, and so on. I mean, we have read in Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu many things about various devotional limbs, so I'm not going to repeat those. But the point is, if we start behaving in our house in a way, in a spiritual cultured way, then our house will become an ashram. Okay. Yes, Prabhu. Now we will recite this verse. So from verse number 4, 5, 6, and 7, as I'm mentioning in the beginning, these verses are very important. And it is about the meditation of Srila Vyasdev after Narad Muni left. Vyasdev ji started to meditate, and what exactly he meditated upon, what exactly he saw, will tell us something very important about all the history of Srimad Bhagavatam. So Vyasa's vision in meditation. So Prabhuji, repeat after me.
Yes.
Bhakti yogena manasi
Bhakti yogena manasi
samyak pranihite male
samyak pranihite male
apashyat purusham purnam
apashyat purusham purnam
mayam cha tad apashrayam.
mayam cha tad apashrayam.
Yes. Now we will go line by line to understand the meaning of the verse. Bhakti yogena manasi. Manasi means mana. Mana means mind. So Vyasadev fixed up his mind on what? He fixed up his mind in Bhakti Yogena. Bhakti Yogena. Now, fixing our mind can be of different types. We can fix our mind on some Bollywood movie. We can fix our mind on some cricket sports, or some fix our mind on maybe some activity that we had done in our past, etc., etc. But here, it is very clear uh, that Vyasdev fixed up his mind in Bhakti Yoga. Bhakti Yogena. So original Sanskrit also contains this word Bhakti Yoga. It is not Dhyan Yoga, Gyan Yoga, or Karm Yoga. It is Bhakti Yogena Manasi. Samyak Pranihite Male. Samyak Pranihite Male means without any tinge of materialism. Materialism, Amale. Amale means very pure. His mind was very pure, devoid of any impurities of Kam, Krodh, Lobh, Moh, Mad, Matsarya, any attachment, anything impure was not there in the mind of Srila Vyasadeva. Samyak. Samyak means completely. Samyak. Samyak pranihite amale. Amale means very pure, without any tinge of materialism. Then apashyat. Purusham purnam. Apashyat means he saw. Pashyati means to see. So apashyat means, and he saw. What did he saw? Purusham Purnam. So here the word Purnam is very important. So does word Purnam remind you of any verse? Does the word Purnam remind you of any verse? I'll give you a hint. It is from an Upanishad.
Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate.
Oh, very nice. Yes, that is the word. That is the verse. Om Purnamadaha Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. So what did we learn from in that verse? In that verse we learned that the Lord is perfect and complete. So here again the word comes Purnam here, and then together with the word Purnam comes Purusham. Purusham means a person, a personality. So what did Vyasdev saw? Vyasdev saw absolute personality of Godhead. And actually they are talking about Lord Krishna. And it will be clear in the later verses that here the word Purusham Puranam is actually referring to Lord Krishna. You will see in, I think, in 7th verse. But I'm telling you in advance that this is about Lord Krishna. What did he saw? He saw Apashyat Puranam Purusham, means Lord Sri Krishna. And then together with Lord Krishna, he saw something more. What he saw? Mayam cha tad apashrayam. Mayam cha tad apashrayam means together with Lord Krishna, he also saw Maya. Maya means material energy. Maya means the external energy. What is the technical name for this external energy? Anyone remembers?
Bahiranga Shakti.
Bahiranga Shakti. Very nice, Prabhuji. So what are the other two Shaktis? Antaranga Shakti and Tatastha Shakti. So they are the other two Shaktis, other two energies. But what did Vyasdev saw? Together with Purusham Purnam, he saw the external energy, that is Maya. And in what situation did he saw? In what condition he saw Maya? He saw Maya as taking apashrayam. Apashrayam means taking shelter of the Lord. So something like Maya is being seen by Vyasdev as taking shelter of the Lord, and together with his external energy, Vyasdev also sees Purusham Purnam, that is Lord Sri Krishna. And the third word, important word, is Bhakti Yogena Manasi. While he was doing meditation in Bhakti Yoga meditation means he was seeing the Lord out of bhakti, out of devotion. He was actually meditating, and that's where he got this vision of the Lord together with his external energy called Maya. So we need to remember these three things: Bhakti Yoga, Purusham Purnam, and Maya from this verse. And I will tell you the reason why we are focusing on these three words. Let us read one by one. Manishji.
Yes. Purport 1.7.4 Lord can be realized in fullness only by bhakti. One can perfectly realize the absolute truth personality of Godhead only by the process of devotional service, and one can enter into the kingdom of God by such perfect knowledge.
Yeah. So here, Bhakti Yogena Manasi. So as we have been mentioning in our other classes also, that Bhakti Yoga is the topmost yoga system. And the benefit of this topmost yoga system is that we get the topmost understanding of the absolute truth, topmost understanding of the Param Satya, and that is Lord Sri Krishna. So when Vyasadev was meditating in Bhakti Yoga, and that's where he saw Purusham Purnam, and that is Lord Sri Krishna. So the topmost yoga system leading Vyasadev to the topmost vision, that is the vision of the Supreme Lord, Lord Sri Krishna. So that is what Srila Prabhupada writes in the purport, that only one can realize perfectly the absolute truth, the personality of Godhead, only by the process of Bhakti Yoga, that is devotional service. So that is the one point why it is very important to highlight Bhakti Yoga. It is very clear. It is and there is no ambiguity in the Sanskrit itself. The word is Bhakti Yogena. Okay, next, Prabhuji.
Yeah. Vyasa did not see Brahman effulgence. Srila Vyasadeva did not take notice of the effulgence of Brahman because that is not absolute vision. The absolute vision is the personality of Godhead as it is confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita 7.19 Vasudeva Sarvamiti.
Yeah. Now, when we are talking about Purusham Purnam, So why we are stressing upon this word Purusham Purnam, and then we also talked about this verse from Ishopanishad, Om Purnamadaha Purnamidam, that Lord is perfect and complete. So the complete and perfect understanding of the Lord actually is the personality aspect of the Lord, the Bhagavan aspect of the Lord. So here Prabhupada ji is writing that Srila Vyasdev did not take notice of the effulgence of Brahman. Effulgence of Brahman is what? The effulgent rays coming out from the transcendental body of the Lord. That is called Brahma Jyoti, and that is Brahman. So here Vyasdev is not seeing Brahman, but beyond Brahman, beyond that effulgence, he's seeing the actually the vision of the Lord Himself, the personality of Godhead he's seeing. Like in Ishopanishad, also in the last verses, we have seen where Hiranyamayan Patrena, that where the devotee is praying to the Lord that kindly remove this bright effulgence from your face so that I can have your darshan. So something very similar. Srila Prabhupada is writing here that Vyasdev did not see the effulgence of Brahman, rather he saw the personality of Godhead, and that vision of personality of Godhead is the absolute vision. Absolute vision means what? There is nothing beyond that vision. Uh, there is nothing beyond that vision. So people who think, or the transcendentalists or spiritualists, those who think that actually Brahman is that absolute vision, that is not correct. That is not correct, and that is what is being established through this verse, that what was the ultimate vision of Vyasdev when he saw the Purusham Purnam in Bhakti Yogena, that was the personality of Godhead. It was not Brahman, it was not the effulgent light, it was the personality. And something similar we see in Bhagavad Gita, where the Lord says in the 19th verse, 7th chapter, Vasudeva Sarvam iti. Vasudeva Sarvam iti. Okay, now Prabhuji, go to the next one.
The absolute is a person. The absolute is mentioned here as a Purusha or a person. The absolute personality of Godhead is mentioned in so many Vedic literatures, and in Bhagavad Gita, the Purusha is confirmed as the eternal and original person.
Yeah, so the word Purusha, Purnam is one word, and then the Purusha is another word. Purusha means he's a person, he's a personality. Like we are personalities, we have our likes, dislikes, and so on. Similarly, the Lord ultimately is a Purusha. Ultimately, he's a personality. He also has likes and dislikes. Okay. Now we go to the next one. Yeah.
Meaning of aprashayanam, the external
Apashrayam. Apashrayam.
apashrayam.
Yeah.
Meaning of apashrayam, the external energy is compared to the darkness because it keeps the living entities in the darkness of ignorance. The word apashrayam suggests that this energy of the Lord is under full control.
So Apashrayam means the Maya or the Bahiranga Shakti. What is the function of Bahiranga Shakti? The function of Bahiranga Shakti is to bewilder the Jiva. The Jiva is there in this material world, and the Bahiranga Shakti attracts the Jiva towards herself. And the objective of Bahiranga Shakti is to distract the Jiva, continuously distract the Jiva. And the Jiva, when he comes under the control of Bahiranga Shakti, he actually feels miserable. We will see that in the next verse. But the point here is the word Apashrayam means here is that this Bahiranga Shakti, this Maya Shakti is not controlling the Lord, rather the Lord is taken the control of this Maya. So Maya is under the subordination of the Lord, not the other way around. So the verse is very, very clear here. Bhakti Yoga is the topmost yoga system. Through this topmost yoga system, we will have the topmost vision of the Lord as Bhagavan, and not as Brahman. And then the Maya actually is the subordinate energy of the Lord, not the other way around. So those are the three important lessons we see from this particular verse. Okay, we now go to the next one. Prabhuji, please recite with me. Yaya sammohito jiva
Yaya sammohita jiva
atmanam trigunatmakam
atmanam trigunatmakam
paropi manute nartham
paropi manute nartham
tatkritam cha bhipadyate.
tatkrabham cha vipadyate.
Very nice. Okay. Now let us see. In the previous verse, we saw that how the Maya Shakti or the Bahiranga Shakti has taken the shelter of the Lord. Now Vyasdev sees something more. Vyasdev now see that this particular Maya is actually the root cause of Jiva's misery. Jiva means the living entity. What he says? Yaya sammohito Jiva. Sammohito means bewildering. It confuses the Lord. It confuses the Jiva. The Maya Shakti confuses the Jiva. So bewildered by this Maya, Yaya. Yaya means it is referring to the Maya mentioned in the previous verse. So the Maya bewilders this living entity. How? And after the living entity is bewildered by this Maya, what happens is Atmanam Trigunatmakam, consider himself made of three gunas. So the Jiva starts to play in the hands of modes of material nature. Sometimes he will play in the hands of Tamoguna, sometimes he will play in the hand of Rajoguna, and sometimes he will play in the hands of Sattvaguna. So the modes will keep on dictating terms to this Jiva and will keep him forgetful about the Lord. So that is Yaya Sammohito Jiva Atmanam Trigunatmakam. Okay. Paropi Manute. And when the Jiva becomes bewildered by this Maya, then what here is being mentioned in this verse is Paro api manute. Paro api manute means although the Jiva plays in the hands of these three gunas, however, Jiva actually is originally, fundamentally is above these three gunas. Fundamentally, it is above three gunas, but when the Jiva comes in contact with the material energy, it gets bewildered by this Maya Shakti of the Lord and starts to identify himself or herself with the Maya. And then what happens? Anartham tat kritam cha abhipadyate. Tad anartham. Anartham means meaningless. Artha means meaning. Anartham means meaningless. And it starts to engage oneself. It starts to engage itself or himself into anarthas. Anartha means into meaningless activities. So what is meaningful activity? Meaningful activity means engaging in the Lord's devotional service. And meaningless activities means doing everything else than the devotional service. That is meaningless. And undergoes the reactions of material miseries. And tat kritam cha abhipadyate anartham. So when you will do anartha, when you will do meaningless things, then what will happen is that you will get bound in karma bandhana. And when you are bound in karma bandhana, then you are bound to move in the cycle of birth and death again and again. So in the previous verse, we saw that how Vyasdev saw Maya Shakti of the Lord taking shelter of the Lord. Here we saw that Maya Shakti of the Lord is in the role of bewildering the Jiva. And when the Jiva is bewildered by this Maya Shakti of the Lord, identifies himself with the Maya, with the material energy of the Lord, and keeps on doing the wrong things, keeps on doing the mistake of identifying himself with Maya, keeps on doing the mistake of getting allured by name, fame, glory, and all the glamour that is there in this material world, and keeps on facing the reactions of these material miseries. So that is anartham. Now we will read from the purport. Yes, Manish ji.
Yeah. Root cause of Jiva's misery. The living being is by constitution transcendental to material engagement, but he is now imprisoned by the external one of the material products, and due to its unholy contact, the pure spiritual entity suffers material miseries under the modes of material nature.
Yeah. So here, root cause of Jiva's misery is that, as we mentioned, that Jiva is actually the Tatastha Shakti, something in between. It is between the spiritual energy and the material energy. So when the Jiva moves towards the material energy or starts to identify with the material energy, uh, not knowing that spiritual energy actually is superior to material energy, then he gets entangled into this material energy. And because of this unholy contact, the pure spiritual entity suffers material miseries under the modes of material nature. So this is the root cause of Jiva's misery. Then next one, Prabhuji.
Why does Lord not interfere with Maya? The Lord does not interfere with the task of the illusionary energy because it is necessary for reformation of the conditioned soul. An affectionate father does not like his children to be chastised by another agent. Yet he puts his disobedient children under the custody of a severe man just to bring them to order.
Yeah. Now, sometime people may ask, say, why did the Lord made the world in such a way that we feel miserable? Lord could have made the world in such a way that there is no misery in the world. So the reason is given here in the purport of by Srila Prabhupada, that why does the Lord not interfere with Maya? So the Lord does not interfere with the task of illusory energy because it is necessary for the reformation of the conditioned soul. So conditioned soul, the jiva, want to enjoy separately from the Lord. And the conditioned soul forgets that actually his supreme interest is to be with the Lord, not with the material energy. So when he plays with the material energy, every time he plays with the material energy with the hope that he will get happiness, but the result is on the contrary, different, is actually opposite. He goes to see some movie, thinking that he will find a lot of happiness, but momentarily he gets some happiness, but after the movie he once again come back to the same situation, feeling miserable, feeling bad, feeling sad, etc. Sometimes people think that eating very tasty food will make them happy, but when they eat a lot of tasty food, the next day they feel difficulty, they feel misery, their stomach is upset, they are getting food poisoning, or they are getting many different type of miseries, etc., etc. Like this, the jiva keeps on playing with Maya, with the external energy, getting every time the opposite result. So one fine day he understands something is wrong with with my approach. Maybe I should try something else. And then he starts looking for where actually he can find real happiness. And then maybe he comes in contact with the devotees, he comes in contact with holy books, holy scriptures, classes on Srimad Bhagavatam, classes on Srimad Bhagavad Gita. There they come to know that actually playing with the external energy is not good. It is the cause of misery. And playing, or rather accepting the spiritual energy or taking the shelter of spiritual energy, will actually make the jiva happy. So this is the reason why Lord purposefully appoint Maya Devi to bewilder the jiva. And the analogy given here is that, like, our children may be naughty, our children may be doing all kind of mischiefs. So we actually, the parents do not want that the children will suffer or children get punishment, etc. But knowingly that child, when will be put under some discipline, will be given some difficulties, obstacles, then maybe it will bring the child to some discipline, bring the child to the right track. Uh, so from that purpose, a rightful parent, a good parent, appoints a person, a disciplined person on the child, and the disciplined person disciplines the child, and the child comes actually on track. Similarly, the role of Maya Devi is to discipline the uh, living entity in this material world, so that the living entity actually starts inquiring about the higher purpose of life. So that is what Prabhupada is mentioning here. Okay. Yes, Prabhu.
To overcome Maya.
Hmm.
Within the heart of every living being, the Lord Himself, as Paramatma, becomes the spiritual master, and from without, He becomes the spiritual master in the shape of scriptures, saints, and the initiator spiritual master. This is still more explicitly explained in the next shloka.
Yeah. So, like I said, when the jiva is bewildered by the Maya Devi, then the jiva starts to think about it. There is some internal voice comes from within. Maybe my approach of living in this world is not correct. I should try something else. So that is what here is mentioned as Paramatma. So the Lord, who is situated in our heart as Paramatma, actually makes this noise inside us. Maybe you should try something else. And then there are other sources also. For example, scriptures. There are saintly people. Maybe sometimes on YouTube, sometimes on some classes, we might hear from some sadhu. This material world is actually dukhalayam ashashvatam. You are not going to get any happiness in this world. And our Diksha Guru, initiator, spiritual master, like that, we have multiple sources, multiple agencies in this world. By the mercy of the Lord, they are present here, who can enlighten the jiva that where actually his real interest lies and where actually his real happiness lies in this world. Okay. Now we will go to Vidya Mataji. Vidya Mataji, would you like to recite?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Okay. Anarthopashamam sakshat
Anartho Pashmam Sakshat
bhakti yogam madhokshaje
Bhakti Yogam Adokshache
lokasya janato vidvams
Lokasya Janato Vidyams
chakre satvata samhitam.
Chakre Satvata Samhitam.
Very nice. Now, how to cure the effect of Maya? So, in the previous slide, I just mentioned briefly, Prabhupada mentioned briefly in the purport that through the agency of scriptures, through the agency of spiritual master, through the agency of saints, one can overcome this effect of Maya. And something similar now is mentioned in the verse itself. Now, anartho upashamam sakshat, anartho upashamam sakshat. So, the suffering of jiva can directly be mitigated by bhakti yoga. Bhakti yogam adhokshaje. Whose bhakti? Adhokshaj. Adhokshaj actually means Lord Krishna, one who is beyond the senses. So, bhakti yogam adhokshaje. Anartho pashamam. So, the miseries, anarthas, the sufferings of the jiva can be directly be mitigated by what? Bhakti yogam of Lord Krishna. And this formula that you see in the first two lines of this verse is not known to the living entities in general. You know, the devotees who are attending these classes, they know. But outside these classes, most of the people in the world actually don't know how one can become happy. The leaders of the society, the politicians of the society have created this United Nations. For what? So that the world becomes a better place. But these people do not know how the real happiness in this world can come. And that is being mentioned here in this Srimad Bhagavatam. It is mentioned, Anartho Pashamam Sakshat Bhakti Yogam Adhokshaje. The sufferings of Jiva can be directly mitigated by Bhakti Yoga. And Lokasya Ajanato Vidvams. And the but the people do not know. Lokasya means people. Ajanato. Janana means to know. Ajanana means not to know. They don't know. But the people do not know this. Therefore, therefore Vyasdev compiled this Vedic literature. Satvata Samhitam. Satvata Samhita means this divine transcendental literature has been uh, compiled. Chakre means compiled. Sankalan karna has compiled this Vedic literature so that the people who do not know this formula for uh, getting above this effect of Maya, they can actually find a cure for themselves. Okay, Mataji, please read one by one.
Purport 1.7.6. Bhakti Yoga is the medicine to cure misery. And at last, he saw the remedial measure for the conditioned souls, namely the process of devotional service. It is a great transcendental science and begins with the process of hearing and chanting the name, fame, glory, etc. of the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
Yes. Now, Bhakti Yoga is the medicine to cure this misery. So Srila Vyasadeva, in his meditation, he saw the Lord, he saw the Maya Devi, he saw that the jivas were bewildered by this Maya Devi, and then he also saw the cure. What is the cure? The cure is Bhakti Yoga. Bhakti Yoga of Adhokshaja. And at last, he saw the remedial measure for the conditioned souls, namely the process of devotional service. It is a great transcendental science. See, Prabhupada is writing in very strong words. It's a great transcendental science and begins with the process of hearing and chanting the name, fame, and glory. That is what all the devotees in these classes are doing. They are hearing the name, they are chanting the name. Just short while ago, Ishwarji presented the previous class. So he's doing the glorification of the Supreme Personality of God. And these two processes, hearing and chanting, actually is the great science which can remedy, which can mitigate the misery of the jiva. Next one, Mataji.
Love of Godhead solely depends on Lord's mercy. Revival of the dormant affection or love of Godhead does not depend on the mechanical system of hearing and chanting, but it solely and wholly depends on the causeless mercy of the Lord. When the Lord is fully satisfied with the sincere efforts of the devotee, he may endow him with his loving transcendental service.
Yeah, so here we can understand that the bhakti yoga we do by on that is an effort on our part, but ultimately the Lord gives his devotional service. The loving devotional service means the prema bhakti, the topmost stage in the bhakti. Only when he's merciful on us. That is simply, it wholly depends upon the causeless mercy of the Lord. But even though the ultimate fruit of bhakti, that is prema, is depending upon the causeless mercy of the Lord, but still, even if we are not at the stage of prema, still there is something for us. Still we have some benefit of doing this hearing and chanting. And what is that benefit? Even without getting to prema, there is still some benefit. And what is that benefit is mentioned here. Yes, Mataji, please read.
Misery is mitigated at once on hearing and chanting. But even the prescribed forms of hearing and chanting, there is at once mitigation of the superfluous and unwanted miseries of material existence. Such mitigations of material affection does not wait for development of transcendental knowledge.
Yes. So Prabhupada is writing here that it is not necessary that we should be at a very advanced stage to get rid of our misery. The moment we accept this process of hearing and chanting, chanting of Hare Krishna Mahamantra, chanting of maybe some kirtan, chanting of maybe speaking some Krishna Katha, or hearing about kirtan, hearing about maybe some Krishna Katha, the moment we take upon this process of hearing and chanting, our material miseries starts to mitigate. Mitigate means lessen. It keeps on decreasing, decreasing, and ultimately it reaches to the stage of prema bhakti. But we, in order to mitigate our miseries, we need not be at the topmost stage. Simply when we start accepting this process with some sincerity, we will start to see the result. So that is something very important. Now we go to the next one. Effect of hearing Bhagavatam. Please repeat. Yasyam va shruyamānāyam.
Yasyam va shuranmanyam,
Yasyam vai shruyamānāyam.
yasyam vai suryamanayam,
Krishne Paramapurushe.
Krishne parma purushe,
Bhaktir utpadyate pumsaha.
bhaktir utpadyate pumsa,
Shokamoha bhayapaha.
shoka moha bhayapaya.
Very nice. So yasyam vai shruya manayam. Simply by giving oral reception to this Vedic literature. Which Vedic literature? Srimad Bhagavatam. Simply by giving oral reception to this Vedic literature, what happens? Krishne Parama Purushe. Now you remember in the fourth verse there was Purusha Purnam. Purusha Purnam. Now here in the seventh verse, the same word comes, Purusha comes together with Krishna. So we can, from this verse, we can understand that what was being referred in the fourth verse of this chapter actually was about Lord Krishna only. Yasyam vashruya manayam Krishne Parama Purushe. So when we give oral reception to the Vedic literature, what happens? The feeling of loving devotional service, Krishna Parama Purushe, to Lord Sri Krishna, uh, uh, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, sprouts up at once. Bhaktir utpadyate pumsaha. Utpadyate. Utpadyate is very similar to the Hindi word utpadan. Utpadan means to produce. Utpad. Utpad means product. So what is the product of Krishna Parama Purushe Bhaktir? The product of Krishna Parama Purushe is Bhaktir Utpadyate Pumsaha. The bhakti actually sprouts up at once. The feeling for loving devotional service for Lord Sri Krishna sprouts up at once. So when we do this oral reception, we hear Krishna Katha, we speak Krishna Katha, the bhakti at once comes manifest in our heart. And what is the result when the bhakti manifests? Shoka moha bhayapaha, to extinguish the fire of lamentation, illusion, and fearfulness. So typically, the miseries the living entity faces in this world is in the form of shoka. He is lamenting about the past. Oh, I had this incident in the past. I had that incident in the past. Moha. Moha means illusion. Maybe illusion in the present. Illusion means this thing will give me happiness, that thing will give me happiness, and so on. And then bhayapaha. Bhaya is about the future. If this thing does not happen to me, then I will be miserable, like that. So past, present, and future. Shok, moh, bhayapaha. All this thing, apaha. Apaha means to extinguish the fire. So the fire of lamentation, illusion, and fearfulness is extinguished. So these are the 7 very important verses. Let us see what is there to be in the purport for the 7th verse. Yes, Mataji.
Advice to politicians. The politicians want a peaceful situation between man, and nation. But this, at the same time, because of too much attachment for material domination, there is illusion and fearfulness. Therefore, the politicians' peace conferences cannot bring about peace in society. It can only be done by hearing the subject matter described in the Srimad Bhagavatam about the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna.
Yeah. Now see, the formula is so simple. Formula to get our miseries mitigated is so simple. Simply hear about Krishna. And the politicians of this world actually does not know. Most of the politicians I'm telling, not all of them, some of them actually do know. But in general, the politician who want the peaceful situation, but they do not know how to really get that peace. So that is what Prabhupada is mentioning here. Okay. Next one, Mataji.
Engage others in hearing and speaking Bhagavatam. This verse shows the Bhagavatam produces prema. Simply by hearing it, prema arises. What to speak then of the greater effect if one engages others in hearing it? And what greater effect speaking it must have, and what even greater effect will engaging others in speaking it produce?
Yes. So here
Darshini.
Sararth Darshani is the commentary by Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. So I came across these lines in that commentary of Bhagavatam by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, and I found these lines very, very nice. Here, what Maharaj is saying, what Chakravarti Pad is saying is that we understand that Bhaktir Utpadyate Pumsa. In this verse, it is mentioned Bhaktir Utpadyate means it actually gives prema bhakti to the person practicing bhakti. And if simply hearing can produce bhakti, if simply hearing this Bhagavatam can produce prema in the heart of the jiva, then what to speak of the situation when you try to engage others also hearing Srimad Bhagavatam? And then he goes on further. Not only hearing by others, if you are engaging others also in hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, it will produce prema, even more prema in your heart. But when you yourself speak Bhagavatam, it will produce even more prema in your heart. And then finally he concludes that not only if you speak Srimad Bhagavatam, but you also engage others also in speaking Srimad Bhagavatam, it will produce even more prema in your heart. So like that, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur is actually encouraging us not only to hear Bhagavatam, but also engage others in hearing Bhagavatam, because that is going to increase prema not only in their heart, but in our heart also. What to speak of make others hear, not only make others hear, but speak yourself Srimad Bhagavatam. What to speak of hear, speak yourself Srimad Bhagavatam, but make others also speak Srimad Bhagavatam. So at this point of time, I would like to once again requests devotees that whatever little you learned in these classes, try to spread the message to others and also engage others in hearing Srimad Bhagavatam. You yourself speak, you yourself engage others also in speaking Srimad Bhagavatam, and the result will be that the prema of the Lord will increase more and more in your heart. Okay. Now, next one, Mataji, please read.
8.8 to 11. Vyasdeva teaches Bhagavatam to Sukdev Goswami. Compilation and revision of Bhagavatam. The great sage Vyasdeva, after compiling the Srimad Bhagavatam and revising it, taught it to his own son, Sri Sukdev Goswami, who was already engaged in self-realization.
Yeah, so Srila Vyasdev did two things. He compiled Srimad Bhagavatam and then he revised Srimad Bhagavatam. Now let us see what does revision of Srimad Bhagavatam actually means. And together with that, he taught this Srimad Bhagavatam to his son, Srila Shukdev Goswami. So that is what is being the subject matter of this 8th verse. Now let us see what is mentioned in the commentary. Yes, Mataji, read from here.
Purport 1.7.8. Why Vyasdeva gave Bhagavatam to Sukha? Because he had realized the superiority of prema over realization of bliss of Brahman. He taught Bhagavatam to Sukha so that he also could see the superiority of the bliss of prema. In this world, if the father has experienced something blissful, he will attempt to have his son experience it also.
Yeah. So Srimad Bhagavatam gives something much more superior. That is Prema Bhakti. And Prema Bhakti is superior to the pleasure, the bliss that somebody experiences when he realizes Brahman. Brahman means the Brahma Jyoti, the impersonal aspect, the Nirakar aspect of the Supreme Lord. But Prema is beyond and much more than the bliss that we see or we experience in the Brahman realization. So here, what Vishwanath Chakravarti is writing in the purport here is SD actually here means Sarartha Darshani. So the purport points for 8th verse are from the Sarartha Darshani Tika of Vishwanath Chakravarti. Here Vyasdev gave Bhagavatam to Shukdev Goswami, his own son, because Vyasdev already understood that Bhagavatam is meant to give much more higher than simply the bliss of Brahman. It is about to give you the Prema Bhakti. It is about to give you Prema. So, because his son Shukdev Goswami was also a pure soul, Bhagavatam, Srila Vyasdev gave Bhagavatam to Shukdev Goswami so that he can also experience the same joy of Prema Bhakti. And the analogy given is that if a father has something good, he also wants to give it to his own son. So, in the same way, in the same spirit, Vyasdev gave Srimad Bhagavatam to Shukdev Goswami. Okay. Now, what does revision of Bhagavatam means? Please read from here. First,
Vyasa had made an abbreviated scripture about bhakti, but on the advice of Narada, he rearranged it, Anukramaya, purified it, giving most prominence to bhakti, to Krishna.
Yeah, so revision actually here means is Vyasadeva was writing Srimad Bhagavatam already and had made some compilation in an abbreviated way already. But on the advice of Narad Muni, he once again went through it, went back to it and revised it, this time giving more prominence to Bhakti and Lord Krishna. So this is the meaning of the word revision. So that is what is found in the commentary of Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. Something interesting points, some interesting points. Yeah. Okay. Next one, Mataji. Please read from the from here. 9.
Questions by Shanuka to Sutta. Sri Sukdev Goswami was already on the path of self-realization, and thus he was pleased with his own self. So why did he take the trouble to undergo the study of such a vast literature?
Yeah, so a very important question is being asked by the sages of Shukdev Goswami was already a liberated soul. Shukdev Goswami was already purified. He had no bad, even a tinge of anything material in his heart. But still, because he was already liberated, he had no tinge of any material desire in his heart. He was Atmaram. Then why actually he took this trouble to undergo the study of such a vast literature? So now the question is answered in the next verse. But before we go there, let us read some points from the purport.
Difference between Atmaram and Karmis. Standard of pleasure enjoyed by the Karmis is different from that of the Atmarams. The Atmarams are completely indifferent to material enjoyment in every respect.
Yeah, so here there is a little difference we need to understand between Karmis and Atmaram. So here in this verse, the word comes Atmaram. Atmaram means one who is self-satisfied. And the person can only become self-satisfied when he has no material desire at all left in the heart. He becomes Atmaram. Like in the verse in Bhagavad Gita 18.54, we understand Brahma Bhuta Prasanna Atma, na shochati na kankshati. So when we are Brahma Bhut, when we are as pure as Brahman, when there is no material tinge, when there is no effect of Sattva Guna, Rajoguna, and Tamoguna, we become Atmaram, become very happy. So Shukdev Goswami by birth was such an Atmaram. So the difference between Atmaram and Karmis is mentioned. The kind of pleasure the Karmis enjoy, it is a material pleasure. But the Atmarams enjoy spiritual pleasure. So Atmarams are completely indifferent to material enjoyment. They don't have any tinge of materialness in their heart. So that is what Atmaram means. Okay, next one, Mataji.
Bhagavatam is postgraduate study even for Atmarams. Srila Sukdev Goswami had already attained that stage, and still he was attracted to undergo the trouble of studying the great Bhagavatam literature. This means that Bhagavatam is a postgraduate study even for the Atmarams, who have surpassed all the studies of Vedic knowledge.
Yeah, so the point here is although Shukdev Goswami was at a very exalted plane, he was already purified. He had no material desires. Brahma Bhuta Prasanna Atmana Shochati na Kankshati. But still, he was he want to study Srimad Bhagavatam because Srimad Bhagavatam gives even more pleasure even to the Atmarams, even to these category of people. Okay. Now we come to the Atmaram verse. It's a very famous verse. This verse has been spoken by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to Sanatan Goswami, and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave multiple meanings, many meanings of this verse. It's a very important verse, and it's popularly known as Atmaram verse. So, Mataji, please recite after me. Atmaramascha Muneyo
Atma Rama Sacha Munayo
Nirgrantha Apya Urukrame
Nigrantha Api Urkarme
Kurvanti Ahetukim Bhaktim
Kurvanti Ahatikam Bhaktim
Itham Bhuta Guno Harihi.
Itam Bhuta Guno Hari.
Yeah. Atmaramascha Muniyo. So different varieties of Atmaram. Now, Atmaram could be of different varieties, like mango is of different varieties, green, yellow, greenish, reddish, etc. Different flavor. Similarly, these Brahma Bhuta Prasanna Atma, these Brahma Bhutas or the Atmarams are also of various varieties. And although these different varieties of Atmaram, they are freed from all kinds of material bondage. Nirgrantha apyurukrame. Nirgrantha means they are freed from all kind of material bondage. We will see in the next slide what are the different meanings of the word nirgrantha. Kurvantya ahetukim bhaktim. Desire to render the unalloyed devotional service unto the personality of Godhead. Since he possesses qualities attractive even to them. Itham bhuta gunohari. So the main point in this verse is that these Atmarams who are at a very exalted stage, they have no material bondage, they also want to render unalloyed devotional service. Kurvanti ahetukim bhaktim, to Lord Sri Hari. Why? Because Itham Bhuta Guno Hari, because the qualities of Lord Hari are so attractive that even these Atmarams actually want to serve the Lord with their heart and soul. So that is the understanding of this particular verse, Atmaram verse. So Bhagavatam is not only meant for people who are in the material world, facing the miseries of the material world, but it is also a very exalted literature even for those who are at a very exalted stage. And Atmaram is a very exalted stage in spiritual life. So that is what the meaning of this word, this verse, Atmaram verse. So let us see three meanings of the word Nirgrantha. So please read from here.
Freed from scriptures,
Hmm.
freed from knot of false ego.
Hmm.
3, freed from bondage of rules and prohibitions.
Yes. So Grantha, the word Grantha can mean scripture, like Srimad Bhagavatam is the Granthraj. Granthraj. Huh? So Granth means scripture. So Atmaram could mean, Nirgrantha means freed from scriptures. Freed from scriptures means what? Because they are already purified in their heart, then why do we need to read scriptures? Because we want to get purified. And for the person who is already purified by reading a lot of scriptures, then there is no further need to read scriptures. They probably might read scriptures only to be an example to the society, but actually they don't need to read scriptures because the purpose of scriptures they have already achieved. So that is why they are known as Nirgrantha. This is one meaning of the word Atmaram, freed from scriptures, then freed from knot of false ego. So grantha or granthi actually also means knot. Knot means ghat. In Hindi we call it ghat. So ghat of false ego or knot of false ego means that sometimes we get this false ego that we are the enjoyer. So nirgrantha means one who does not believe that he is the enjoyer. He actually thinks he thinks that he is not the enjoyer. So he's freed from knot of false ego. That is also meaning of the word nirgrantha. Then freed from the bondage of rules and prohibitions. So it is another way of saying that freed from scriptures, because scriptures are mentioning the rules and prohibitions. So the person who is already purified, then he may not need to follow rules and prohibitions, because why do we need to follow rules and prohibitions? Because we want to avoid to do something mistaken. We want to avoid to do something wrong, and rules and prohibitions prevents us to do something wrong. But a person who is already devoid of any material tinge of material desires cannot do anything wrong because he's already purified. So he's freed from the bondage of rules and prohibitions. So this is the three meanings of the word Nirgrantha. So that is why it is mentioned here, different varieties of Atmarams. So how to understand different varieties of Atmarams? There are three possible meanings. This is also a purport by Sararth Darshani by Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. Prabhupada has given a very elaborate purport to this verse. So in order to keep the understanding of that verse to a little brief, I actually took the help of the Sararth Darshini Tika, where it has been explained relatively in a small text. But that is not to say that what Prabhupada has written is not important. I would request you to read that purport written by Prabhupada also, where he has given a very elaborate discussion about this verse. Okay, please come to the next point, Mataji.
Can Bhagavatam deliver the liberated? Can a scripture of bhakti, Bhagavatam, deliver one who have surpassed scriptures, two who have given up all identities of ego, three who have given up all rules and prohibitions? To destroy all such protests, the verse says, Itham Bhuta Guna. The Lord has such attractive qualities that even Atmarams become attracted.
Yeah, so in order to establish this point, that Bhagavatam is even attracted to Atmarams, this verse has been spoken here by Suta Goswami. Okay. Now in this particular slide, I will not spend a lot of time. I have already mentioned this short while ago. Here you see the word Atmaram is being repeated, and in the purport to this particular verse, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur quotes this particular verse from Srimad Bhagavad Gita. Brahma bhuta prasanna atmana shochati na kankshati samah sarveshu bhuteshu mad bhaktim labate param. So when you are at the Brahma bhuta stage, in other words, when you are at the Atmaram stage or Nirgrantha stage, then what happens? You become very prasanna. There is no lamentation, there is no hankering. You start to see everyone equal, and at that stage, that Lord says that you are now eligible to come to my bhakti. Mad bhaktim labhate param. Then bhaktya mam abhijanati yavan yaschasmi tatvatah tato mam tatvato gyatva vishate tadanantaram. So bhaktya mam abhijanati. So the very next verse, Lord Krishna in Bhagavad Gita says that only by my bhakti you can know me in complete. Bhaktya mam abhijanati. And something similar we saw in this particular session of Srimad Bhagavatam, that by bhakti yogena, what did Vyasdev saw? Vyasdev saw Lord Sri Krishna, Parama Purusha, Purusham Purnam, like that. So bhaktya mam abhijanati. So like that, you can see that how Srimad Bhagavatam and Srimad Bhagavad Gita conveys exactly the same message, no different. But in Srimad Bhagavatam, it has been conveyed in a very emphatic way. Exclusively, this message has been communicated in Srimad Bhagavatam. In Bhagavad Gita, you will find many other topics also, but Bhagavatam, pure bhakti, 100%, 24 karat bhakti. That is what Bhagavatam is. Okay, let us now go to our next volunteer, Rakesh ji. Would you like to start to read from here?
Yes, Prabhuji. Sukadeva became dear to devotees. Becoming absorbed in Krishna qualities, Harer Gunakshipta Matir, Sukadeva Goswami studied Bhagavatam. He is transcendently powerful and also dear to Lord's devotees. Vishnu Janapriya.
Now, Shukdev Goswami, he was a Atmaram. He was not a devotee. Srimad Vyasdev taught him Bhagavatam and then he became a devotee. Now, when he became a devotee, Shukdev Goswami, what change happened in the life of Shukdev Goswami? He is transcendently powerful and also dear to the Lord's devotees, Vishnu Janapriya. So before he studied Bhagavatam, actually he did not see devotees in a very dearmost way, because he did not understood or he could not appreciate the sweetness of prema bhakti. Already he was experiencing the bliss of Brahman, but he was not experiencing the sweetness, the even more superior bliss of prema bhakti. So once he started experiencing the taste of prema bhakti, he started to look the devotees in a different way. He started to look the devotees in a way, or the devotees are also experiencing the same sweetness. So I must actually make friends with the devotees. And the devotees also started to look towards Shukdev Goswami as very dear to them. So this is what actually happens in our life. When our life is centered around Krishna Bhakti, then whoever is also engaged in the process of Krishna Bhakti become dear to us, and they also start to see us as in a very dearmost way. So this is actually the essence of sweet relationship between the Vaishnavas. So Vaishnavas relationship actually are based upon this foundation of Krishna Bhakti. That is what is being mentioned in this verse. Okay, please read from here.
How Shukdev became dear to devotees. Shukdev's mind was disturbed by the qualities of Krishna. He thought, my intelligence is unfortunate, because though the Lord's qualities are so sweet, up until now, that intelligence has been engaged uselessly in realizing Brahman. He held not only Atmarams dear, but also the Vaishnavas dear because of attraction to their discussions about Krishna, or the Vaishnavas held him dear.
Yeah, so as I mentioned, it was a change in the conception of Shukdev Goswami. He was Atmaram, and then he became a devotee, and he experienced this sweetness. So he started to see the devotees in a different light, and the devotees also started to see him in a different light. That is, both of them became dear to each other. So this is being mentioned in the purport of Sarartha Darshini Tika by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. Now, this is a link. This is a turning point in this Bhagavatam. Turning point means the change of themes. So the theme is now changing. So far, Sud Goswami answered question 1, that is history of Bhagavatam from 14th verse of 4th chapter till 11th verse of 7th chapter. So we just now finished the 11th verse of the 7th chapter. Now, Sud Goswami will move to the question number 2, asked in the verses 9 to 11 of 4th chapter. And what was those questions? About Parikshit Maharaj. And there were various questions asked. What are his births? What is his activity? And so on. There were several questions asked by them regarding Parikshit Maharaj. But first of all, Sud Goswami will start describing the events leading to his birth, leading to the birth of Parikshit Maharaj. Okay. So please start reading from here. Now the storyline starts. Now we will move a little faster.
Lamentation for Pandava's dead sons.
Hmm.
Verse number 12. I will now speak about the birth, activities, and death of King Parikshit, and the renunciation of Pandavas, which will give rise to discussion about Krishna.
So here, now the discussion is starting in a different direction. He's now changing track, starting to talk about Parikshit Maharaj's birth, but not directly talking about Parikshit Maharaj's birth, but starting with the events which actually led to the birth of Parikshit Maharaj. So here he's actually laying the foundation for, okay, I'm going to start to speak about Parikshit Maharaj, his birth, his death, his activities, and also I will talk about the renunciation of the Pandavas. And when I will talk about all these things, it will actually give rise to a discussion about Lord Krishna automatically, because all these characters, all these activities are actually surrounded by Lord Krishna himself. Okay, next one, Prabhuji.
Verse 13-14. At the end of Kurukshetra war, Ashwathama killed the 5 sleeping sons of Draupadi to please Duryodhana, who was lying with his thigh broken. Duryodhana disapproved of this heinous act and was not at all pleased.
Yeah, now what happened is Mahabharat war has ended. Duryodhan was very severely wounded by Bhishma, by Bhima. Uh, he was hit on his thighs and he was actually lying wounded in the battlefield of Kurukshetra. And Ashwathama, who was on the side of the Kauravas, wanted to do something very very severe to create something very disturbing to the Pandavas. And what he does is he actually enters into the camps of the Pandavas, and he saw the 5 sons of Pandavas, 5 sons of Draupadi, sleeping, and he mistook those sleeping sons as Pandavas. So he actually wanted to kill the Pandavas, and he thought that the people who are sleeping in this tent are actually Pandavas, and he killed all of them, and went with this news to Duryodhan, who was lying wounded in the battlefield of Kurukshetra, and gave this news to Duryodhan. Duryodhan, when he heard this news, actually disapproved of the action done by Ashwathama, that you actually did a very, very heinous act. It is not befitting of you as a Kshatriya to, as a Brahmana or as a Kshatriya to perform this kind of an act. So this is what happens in the storyline that we are now about to start. Okay. Yes, Prabhu. Read
Verse
this.
15-16. Draupadi cried in distress with tears in her eyes. Arjuna spoke to pacify her. After beheading that Brahmana, I will wipe your tears. Then after burning your sons' bodies, you can take your bath standing on his head.
Yeah, so now you can see the emotions boiling up with the mother and the father. Draupadi cried in distress with tears in her eyes, and Arjuna actually pacified Draupadi. He said that I am going to behead this Brahmana who has done such a heinous act, and then you can actually satisfy your heart. You can be peaceful at your heart by taking bath only after then. You cremate the sons, you cremate the 5 sons, and you stand on the behead, the head of this brahmana, which I'm going to bring it to you, and then you can take bath, and then maybe your distress will be a bit mitigated. So this is something very strong words a Kshatriya is speaking. So we need not take example from all these activities, that beheading something and so on. This is not for the devotees, not to think in that direction, but just to see the intensity of emotions between Draupadi and Arjuna. We are sharing this. Okay. Okay. Next, Prabhuji.
Arjuna, who is guided by the infallible Lord as friend and driver, thus satisfied the dear lady by such statements. Then he dressed in armor and armed himself with furious weapons, and getting into his chariot, he set out to follow Ashwathama, the son of his martial teacher.
Yeah. Now you see the Krishna, Lord Krishna, on whom the central character of Srimad Bhagavatam appears in Bhagavatam for the first time. So far, we have been discussing about Lord Krishna indirectly, but here, now directly, Lord Krishna makes an entry into Bhagavatam in the 7th chapter, 17th verse. And you can see how Lord Krishna, who is actually the hero of Srimad Bhagavatam, enters here in a very humble way as a charioteer of his devotee Arjuna. Generally, when the hero is making an entry in the book or in a film, the entry is sometimes very grand. But here, our Lord is making an entry in a very humble way as a chariot driver of Arjuna. This speaks about the Bhakt Vatsal nature of the Supreme Lord. Okay. So Arjuna is now set on his chariot. His chariot driver is Lord Krishna himself, and he is trying to go to find Ashwathama because he has killed the 5 sons of Draupadi. Okay.
Seeing Arjuna coming at him with great speed, Ashwathama fled in fear. When Ashwathama saw that his horses were tired, he considered that there was no alternative for protection than using the ultimate weapon, the Brahmastra.
Yeah. Now Arjuna is about to catch Ashwathama. Ashwathama is running. His horses have become tired. He understood that now it will be a little futile to do something and to escape from Arjuna. And seeing his life in great danger, he could not decide anything because he saw his life in danger. He started to decide something in a very irrational way, and he started to use a very strong weapon, a nuclear weapon. This is known as Brahmastra.
Since his life was in danger, Ashwathama touched water in sanctity and concentrated upon the chanting of the hymns for, for throwing nuclear weapons, although he did not know how to withdraw such weapons.
Hmm. So he was in a very different or a very disturbed state of mind. He could not think in a rational way. He did the Achman, invoked the mantras for shooting the Brahmastra, and by invoking these mantras, by doing the Achman, he ultimately loaded the Brahmastra on his bow and released the Brahmastra. He did not know how to withdraw this weapon. So he only knew how to throw this weapon, but did not know how to withdraw such weapon.
Thereupon, a glaring light spread in all directions. It was so fierce that Arjuna thought his own life in danger, and so he began to address Lord Shri Krishna.
Yeah. Now the Brahmastra has been unleashed by Ashwathama, and Arjuna saw the Brahmastra coming. How he knew Brahmastra is coming? Because he saw very bright, effulgent light in all directions. The light was very, very fierce, and Arjuna thought that his own life was in danger. And then he began to address Lord Sri Krishna. And next few verses from verse number 22 till 25 are actually prayers of Arjuna to Lord Sri Krishna. But I think we are getting exceeding our time limit, so I will stop the class here. Unfortunately, we could not complete till the verse number 34, but I don't have any regrets. I think we covered the important subject matter of this particular part of Srimad Bhagavatam in a sufficient detail and in sufficient depth. So we will talk about the prayers of Arjuna in our next class, that is on the next Sunday. and till then maybe we can take this uh, rest. We can rest the class till that time being. Sorry, Vrindavaneshwari Mataji, we will start with you in the next class for
Yes, yes.
reading the
Thank you.
slides.
Yes.
Yeah. So my apologies, I could not involve you in
No,
this
no,
class.
no problem.
Okay. So with that, we conclude the class here. I will say all glories to Srimad Bhagavatam, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. We can have some discussion now. Any takeaways you might have, any comments or questions you might have, we can discuss. And please take note that the next services will be with Kulkarnis. There are two Kulkarnis in our class. One is Anupama Kulkarni Mataji and then Manish Kulkarni Prabhu. Both are actually, I think, cousin brothers and sister. So both of them will take to the service in the next class. One Mangalasharan and Manish Prabhu, the summary. Okay, Prabhuji,
Uh,
Mataji.
I
Hare Krishna.
Yes, yes, Prabhuji. Yes, Vrindavaneshwari Mataji, you were saying something?
yes, Prabhuji, I have a little query regarding
Yeah.
this class. Like the chapter begins with glorification of Bhagavatam, and then why Shukadev Goswami was taught Bhagavatam by his own father, etc. Then suddenly the story starts with the killing of the sons of Pandavas by Ashwatthama. So I was curious to know, is there a relation between the katha that started and the how the chapter opens?
Yeah.
That is
So in the chapter opens to complete the history of Bhagavatam. So I
yeah.
don't know why Vyasdev decided to keep the first 7 verses or the first 11 verses in this chapter.
Okay.
He could have maybe transferred those verses in the 6th chapter to make that history part completed in the 6th chapter, but that is not for me to decide. But the point is, with the 11th verse in this chapter, the first question is complete. The answer to the first question is complete. And in
Yeah.
my opinion, there is no connection between them. It is only the
Okay.
way it is organized like that. And from
Okay.
12th verse onwards, the answer to the second question is being narrated by Sut Goswami. Yeah.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. Yes, Kartar Prabhuji.
Dandavat Guruji.
Yes, Prabhuji.
I have only small, appreciation for my Guru by saying it means what I get from today's. I get plenty of things, but main thing which I catch my main attention is studies, bhakti, and devotion has no limit. We can go for these at any stage to any level.
Yeah.
To get this into completeness is very difficult. So
Yeah. So
we keep on shifting from one to another with the help of Guru.
yeah. So we need not.
That's my chance to have a Guru.
Yeah. Yeah. So we
And,
need not become a little overwhelmed that our goal is so exalted. Probably we may not be able to reach. I would say simply enjoy the mellows of bhakti as we are practicing it and leaving the results in the hands of the Supreme Lord. Whenever he would desire to take us to that stage, he probably will. And then let us keep ourselves immersed in the joy of doing this bhakti right now in the present. So that's what I would suggest. And would like also that suggestion for me myself.
thank you very much.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Ji. Any other question?
Ji,
Any other
Guruji,
devotees?
because that Guru Kripa is very necessary.
Yeah.
So it makes more firm in my, achievements and in my dreams and in my efforts.
Okay. Thank you, Prabhuji.
So may God give my Guruji long life and happy, healthy, prosperous, and everything.
Thank you,
All
Prabhuji.
glories to Guruji, all glories to Srila Prabhupada,
Thank
all
you.
glories to all Satsangi.
Okay, Ji. Any
Ji.
other comments or questions by other devotees? Thank you, Prabhu. Yeah.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Yes, Mahalakshmi Mataji. Yes.
Prabhu, I have one doubt. Now I don't remember the verse. like you were mentioning, no, means in this it is mentioned that whenever we read Bhagavatam or by just hearing or listening, so everything we understand as a devotees that misery is there, sometimes everything, but sometimes we don't have that capacity to tolerate.
We are not.
And even
Hmm. Yes,
material
please.
problems, it's so difficult to accept
Hmm.
because sometimes we have our own problems, and out of that, being a devotee, going through that, so challenging. So for that, what is the solution to that, bro?
Solution is, Mataji, that when we don't have problems in our life, we do bhakti with sincerity at that stage of our life. So when we don't have any problem, when we do bhakti sincerely, we actually deepen our roots, purify our consciousness, so that when the problem comes, we are much more better prepared to handle those reversals. And I understand that when the problem comes in our life, we become disturbed, we become distracted, and that is because our we are ourselves very limited. We are not like the Supreme Lord, unlimited. So our
Yes,
patience is also limited, our tolerance capacity is also limited, and so on.
yes,
But we have this faith that our Lord is unlimited, and
yes,
because our Lord is unlimited, we actually will make it one day. And although there are reversals in our life, the moment we start to take shelter of the Lord, the moment we start to take shelter of the holy name and so on, we are actually moving towards the Lord. So in nutshell, what I would say is, when we are all right, we do bhakti sincerely, so that when we are not so all right, we can tolerate the reversal with some dignity and with some strength. And that's how we need to deal with the situation.
oh,
Hare
bro,
Krishna
one more
Prabhu.
question. As a devotees, see, once we take initiation, it is that said that all our karma is gone,
Hmm.
but still sometimes we are facing some challenges. We should accept this as a karma or as a like Lord's will.
Mataji, karma, for if the moment the till the point we have this body,
Hmm.
there is some karma in this body, because unless we have a karma, uh, uh, if we don't have any karma, then the body will not be there. The body
Okay.
itself, we are having this body itself means that we are having some karma,
Correct.
because
Okay.
we will experience that karma only through this body. The point is,
Oh,
when we take initiation, we are
yes.
accepted in the parampara. At that moment of time, the karma switch is switched off, but there is
Okay.
inertia. There is inertia. The fan continues to move, and it will
Okay.
stop in due course of time in future.
Okay.
So like that. So we continue to do our bhakti. Uh, uh, like that, there is a verse, Tattenu Kampa Susumikshamano. The
Yes.
devotee's intention or the devotee's mindset is that there are miseries in this world. I will tolerate them, continuing to do my bhakti with sincerity and with all kind of faithfulness. And only when we continue to do like that, then the Lord actually becomes merciful to us and takes us back. He reclaims us. It is very similar to that when you are a son and you continue to be obedient to your father.
Yes.
Maybe your father is not treating you very nicely, whatever, but you
Yes.
continue to be obedient with your father, then ultimately the inheritance of father will come to you.
Yes.
Inheritance of your father will continue. Similarly, the devotee continues to live in this world, tolerating all the miseries, but continuing to do the bhakti with sincerity and faithfulness. uh, and ultimately, the Supreme Lord will take note of it and will do the needful at the right time.
Thank
Hare
you.
Krishna
Thank you so
Prabhu.
much. Hare
Yes,
Krishna.
Prabhuji. Yes, Prabhuji.
May I say something on this?
Yes,
That
Prabhuji. Yes.
we should always continue to strengthen our faith. I
Hmm.
think if we lack the faith, then all these things will naturally put you down. But if we have a strong faith and we are ready to surrender, I
Right.
think things do
Correct.
wither away.
Yeah.
That is how
So
I look
Yeah.
at things.
Yeah. So
most of time.
the moment we have this higher taste means we have this love of the Lord. Let me give you one small example. Have you ever experienced in your life that when you are in a good mood, when we are in a good mood, maybe when maybe for example, India beats Pakistan in World Cup final, and everyone is joyful, everyone is elated. And sometimes when you are in that very good mood, somebody comes to you and speaks some harsh words to you. Don't you have experienced that when you are in a very good mood and something bad happens to you, you ignore it, you tolerate it,
Definitely.
you
Yes.
don't take notice of it. So
Yes.
the similar thing happens when we are doing bhakti continuously, sincerely. The love of God comes in our heart. We feel satisfied. We feel like Atmaram, not maybe exactly like Atmaram, but we are moving towards that domain, towards that territory. And
Yes. Yes.
that satisfaction, the feeling of love, that feeling of gratitude, which is there in our heart, and at that moment of time when some reversal come to you, then you are able to accommodate that reversal with dignity.
Yes.
So the
Yes. Prabhu.
key is the I would say the key is that we continue to do this bhakti when we are in a when our times are not that bad, when we are relatively comfortably placed, so that we get this strength, we get this nourishment, and when any reversal comes in our life, we are able to tolerate it and able to face it with much more dignity and strength. So that is the
Yes.
idea. Yeah.
Very right. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Okay, then we come to the conclusion. It's a good, healthy question answer for 10 minutes. I think the class was, uh, uh, I think it was quite satisfying to me. I hope it was satisfying to the devotees also. And we continue
Yes.
with our discussion in the next class from the 22nd verse. So till then, thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare
Hare,
Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Hare, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Hare
Hare,
Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
It was excellent to listen Vidya Mata today.
Yeah.
She was doing good, you know,
Yeah.
pronunciation, speed,
Yes.
amplitude, everything was good,
Okay.
befitting. Yeah, all are all devotees, all satsangis are excellent. It's
Okay.
Guru's kripa and my chance.
Yes, Prabhuji. Okay. Thank you very much. We will
Dandavad and
close the class now. Okay. Thank you, sir.
ji,
Hare
ji.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Guruji. Hare Krishna.